Okay, it is the last week of this year's Cancer cycle, the sun going through Cancer. And I think the moon, the ruler of Cancer, essentially is not going to, in any fashion, say, I'm going to take a back seat. No, that's just. And if you look at this chart for today, Monday, at 8 o'clock this morning, you can kind of see that the moon up here in 18 degrees of Sagittarius is making a few aspects. It's got quincunx to this Sun and Mercury dance. It's got an opposition to Venus, got another quincunx to the North Node and Uranus. It's got a trine down here to Chiron, a square to Neptune. So there's a lot of aspects that are actually being tickled. There's also a sextile aspect that will form very shortly today with Saturn. So, what do you feel? Okay, what's the energy of today? Because after all, let's just take it from the moon's perspective in Sagittarius, because Sagittarius is a energy that really isn't. It isn't attempting to contain itself within limitations. Sagittarius is the largest planet of the solar system. It's a going for kind of energy that really is, it wants to be big. It doesn't want to leave things out. And this lunar dance today is no exception to that rule. It's touching almost everything in the chart. So there's a lot of different ways we can see all these aspects in play. I think probably the key factor to keep in mind is that because it's a Sagittarius flavor that's reaching out, to touch everything, don't think small today. Don't sense that containing yourself is going to be an effective tool to utilize. The quincunx, which is 150 degrees, is a degree that says, well, the nature of the signs involved is that here's a water sign to a fire sign. Here's an earth sign to a fire sign. Water and earth, the sextile, this between the Sun and Uranus and the Mercury and Uranus and the North Node of the Moon. Sextile energy, these planets are, this is earth and water signs, they do real well in any context that they find themselves in, because there's not necessarily disharmony in play between water and fire and between earth and fire. It's not quite as easily grasped. And, quincunx is an aspect that says that there needs to be some level of reciprocity, or perhaps another way to see a quincunx is that one of the planets in this particular type of an aspect has to accede to the other planet by, and say, I'm going to give you the reins in this particular situation, even though I'm not overtly comfortable with that. If something is going to be accomplished, one of us is going to have to stand down in this equation. So, and this is a rather unique gathering of the quincunxes and the sextiles, in that this is known as a yod, a finger of God. And a finger of God, how it works is it works that the focal point, in this case, which is the moon, becomes significant as the point where the outworking is actually going to be inspired. And another way to look at this is also the opposition area of where the quincunx is, which is down here on the Venus in Gemini, almost, so you can kind of see it's off by 4 degrees, but it's close enough that it would be a consideration in the factor of, in that largeness picture that this moon sitting at the apex of this yod, what it's bringing for, the largeness, the Venus in Gemini down there says that, make sure that in that large potential version of what life is beckoning you to participate in, don't leave out the other. That factor, Venus as an other, needs to be part of the equation. You may have great and marvelous ideas as to the dynamics of what you can accomplish as yourself, but this is Sagittarius. Sagittarius is, it doesn't leave anything out. And the Venus down there in almost opposition to it says, here's the others, they're clamoring, the others are clamoring to participate with you in this dance of the investigation of everything that is. That Sagittarius thing, there's that Gemini Sagittarius energy at work there. And, we have the opposition, which we already talked about, but we have the trine down here to Chiron, we have the square to Neptune retrograde. There's a lot of lunar energy that is in play as this day begins, and use it wisely. I think that is probably the approach. The square to Neptune, that deepest level of participation with what source is, the Piscean realm, and Neptune, a level of creative imagination that is stirring the pot, to really make sure that all the parts are being considered. Chiron, is it a wounded healer? Or is it something more? I perceive that Chiron is more the mentor, and that's the side of Chiron I tend to lean into, because he was a teacher. He basically instructed many, many people in the art of healing. So, wounded healer, a teacher of the art of healing. Now, the wound may have created the need to learn everything that he learned, but actually taking that next step of sharing what it is that he learned with others. This trine, this fire trine up to that moon that's happening today, might make us just a little bit more perceptive of those things that we know, that we really, have lived into, and utilize that Sagittarian wisdom to be able to share that perspective with others. Keep always in mind, in any lunar aspect, that they go by very quickly. So this is today. This is the, the earlier part of today, when all this kind of energy is taking place. The moon moves at about a degree every 2 hours. You can kind of see it's at 18 degrees here. So within 2 hours, it's going to catch up with the exact quincunx with this, with the sun. It's already right on the exact quincunx with Uranus, and the one that's approaching here at 25 degrees Neptune, which we just talked about, is 7 degrees away, so 14 hours. So this will be kind of the end of the day as this is taking place. And it, a couple of hours ago, 4 hours ago, it made that aspect with Chiron. So welcome to the last week of Cancer. Their energies of the things that are going to happen this week are, if we go really quickly here, looking at, here is the Wednesday. And on Wednesday, we have the full moon across the Cancer Capricorn axis. And you can kind of see Mercury's in this equation as well, as it approaches from the far side of the sun. Also, even though it might be a little distance, the Plutonian factor is definitely in play with this. When I looked at, just going through the week, there's a lot of quincunxes. This is a quincunx here that happen, oppositions, squares as we go through. Here's more quincunxes in the work, more quincunxes in the work. I'm just kind of going through a Saturday. Quincunxes are still in play. Sunday is a shift day for us in the fact that, well, we'll get to it. But there's some dynamism in play here. Go back. Okay, let's just do the full moon. Okay, on this day, Wednesday, full moon. It's in Capricorn. What is the sensation that comes to your consciousness when the matter of governance is on the table? That is the realm of Capricorn. Governance. With any appropriateness, the use of integrity to facilitate a methodology wherein the overall perspective of what might be beneficial to the most is placed on the table for consideration in how and what is going to actually work the best for the most people involved. And, even as I say that, as soon as I said people, the loudness of the call from Mother Nature said, do not forget us. We are part of the equation. It's not just about you humans. And I think we need to always keep that in mind in any consideration. So this full moons bring us to the potential awareness of what was set in motion during the last new moon, which was, what was it? 7 degrees. Yes, 7 degrees of Cancer. What did you set for your intention? Was there an awareness of more of an inclusion of those who might justly be included in what you understand your clan to be. That's a good Cancerian thing. How effective do you play the family factor in your living process? Essay question. This is something that I can't answer for you. You have to yourself. But the opportunity that Cancer represents is and has everything to do with that connective tissue of not just this, mom and dad and your brothers and sisters and stuff, but going back through the ancestral lineage of the connection coming through from those that have gone before you and allowed for the experience of that familial connection to grow and expand and recognize that we come from a much larger context than just being an individual. And how large is that individual perspective that you have? How inclusive can you be? The full moon says, did I choose wisely in my understanding of that familial clan context as a focus for this month? And now in Capricorn at the full moon, the maximum reflective solar light coming from the moon is saying, are you still on the right path? Did you choose wisely? Do you sense the presence of that ancestral lineage trying to keep your attention focused on what might be beneficial to the more? And we jump our things through the things. Probably one of the funnest aspects that is going to transpire this week, and there's many aspects, you can kind of see them, they're all over the chart here. As I go to the chart, you see lots of squares. Venus is doing some dancing squares. Uranus is doing some square dancing, and it's like there's tension in the air, lots of inconjunct squares, this. I'm not going to get into all of those, but here we reach Saturday the 16th. On this day, if you look down here, we see Mercury at 23 degrees 50 minutes of Cancer, Sun at 24 degrees 4 minutes. There are 14 minutes in between the Sun and the Mercury's position. This is a aspect known as a Casimi. I'm not sure, it sounds like something that came out of the Greek pantheon, but when a planet is Casimi the Sun, and the Sun, you should perceive the Sun as this is the masculine or the king version of life. Who sits on the throne? That is, is it a king? Is it a queen? Same kind of energy in play with either one of those beings. Authority. There is definitely authority in the mix. When a planet is Casimi the Sun, it is basically that particular planet is presented with an opportunity to he has the ear of the king or the queen. And in this case, it's kind of interesting because it's Mercury. Mercury is, the gift of gab. Here's the voice box, the the thinking mind finding a vehicle to speak. So one way to look at this Casimi thing that's taking place here on Saturday and Sunday is that it's a brief time because Mercury's ripping along at a pretty good speed right now. But in those moments, the opportunity to have the floor, to, and even as I say that, the energy of just having a floor is one thing, but paying attention to who is my audience? And might there be, so we're talking about, the sun, the king, queen kind of aspect, might there be opportunity here to invite audience participation in a conversation that lifts everybody up to that level of similar authority for what it is that, we represent to each other and to life itself. This is a very dynamic aspect. And though it'll go by relatively quickly on Saturday and Sunday, the version of how you play this, it's an opportunity for saying things that you might not generally be inclined to give voice to. Trust yourself. Put it out there. This is like a magical moment for saying things that you've been thinking about. But as with any conversation, it's always a two-way street. Are you willing, and you must be, to listen to what the response is to what it is that you have given voice? It's in Cancer. How connected to your roots and ancestors, family and clan, home, hearth are you? And how willing might you be to invite others into that same sacred space? This is one of those times when it could go a long ways to allowing a very unique level of connection to transpire. One more day of the week, Sunday. Well, on Sunday, let's see, what do we got happening? Oh, here it is. Venus down here at the bottom of the chart, 29 degrees, 28 minutes of Gemini. Folks, it is coming to a close in the Gemini cycle on this day. Venus is going to leap across that border and come into the land of Cancer. So those thoughts that Mercury and Gemini have been, cooking within your capacities to, to really, stir the pot of the experience of what does it mean to interact with other people is about to go across the line from that really strong yang energy of Gemini into a more relaxed back, though still cardinal kind of energy of Cancer that says, maybe I've connected with enough people during this last cycle. And, immediately the thoughts are, oh God, we've been in COVID for so long. The process of connecting with other people in person anyway has been just a little bit on the challenging side. And so tools like the internet, putting out podcasts like the Celestial Chatters has, stepped into the limelight, so to speak, much more dramatically over the past couple years than may have happened if we hadn't had COVID. There's I participate in multiple shamanic things every week, astrological considerations with other people, others, events and different kinds of things going on. And so Venus stepping across that line into Cancer is saying, am I rooted enough? Do I have a substantial enough foundation to be able to present in any of these formats that I participate in that resonant quality of my core being in an effective enough way that it inspires all of us to just lift up just a little bit more than we might be inclined to normally, and tune into an aspect of ourself or aspects of ourself that we don't generally see as being on the table, but they are. Yes, they are. This is a dynamic time that we're living in, where there are changes afoot on a very large scale that are going to set in motion or make a determination as to the longevity of things like the human race as we know it. Perhaps we have gone just a little bit beyond our capacity of what it means to share this planet with all of life. With this last week of Cancer, full week of Cancer, we're invited to make sure that in as many aspects as we possibly can, we are grounded in appropriateness for what it is that our souls, that larger part of us, came to accomplish while here on planet Earth. Recently, I've been participating in a number of different shamanic workshops. One is a dream course with Robert Moss. And in one of those events to the Gallery of Time, I received a gift of a blank canvas and a magic paintbrush, which when I came back, I thought, what am I going to do with this here in this everyday world that I live in? And thoughts came, floating back to me from back in the early 80s when I used to do some drawing of characterizations, facial processes and stuff. And so I just started drawing a bunch of characters, that were, that had provided an impression with my experience of insight gleaned from actually being a soul here on planet Earth. This is my latest. You might recognize him as the Dalai Lama, the current 14th Dalai Lama. He was asked, and I don't remember exactly where this came out in one of the 7 Mystics course that I'm taking with a dynamic teacher, and he was asked what version of God he believed in. Well, his response was, I believe in the God of Thomas Merton. And if you don't know who Thomas Merton is, you might want to look him up, for his perspective of God it's intriguing. It really gives you pause for cause. Anyway, thank you to the Dalai Lama for allowing my pencil, pen, and colored pencils to say hello. And as such, we're going to close this week off with that thought. Don't think small. Take that full moon and utilize it in as effective a way as you can to, and also the Casimi, Mercury, and the Sun. Take a chance. Say some things to those on your wavelength. Stir the pot, because life is giving us those ingredients right now to do just that. Anyway, thanks so much. Until next week, we will see you wherever we find ourselves at that point. Next week, we begin into the Leo season, so make sure that the footlights are ready, the stage is set, and action is about to transpire where you're going to make an impression on the rest of your world. Ciao for now.